it's an isolated area. It's a semi-arid context, so less than 600 millimeters per year. And also the records in terms of meteorological records are not continuous. So it's very difficult to predict in this type of context. So we try to solve that in order to achieve water security. This is a karst. So I believe that many of you have been working in this type of context. It's a context you can find in the region here. For example, in the north of Iraq, you've got a big karst. You've got it also in Iran. All the southwest of Iran is a big karst. What are the problems connected to this area? So, well, I lost the... I know it's here. So the karst is limestone. It's diaclast. You see there are big fails here. So it means that first, the recharge of the karst is done essentially by rain. Second, the transfers are very quick, very fast. There is no reserve into the karst. And also if there is a pollution somewhere, the pollution is going to transfer very quickly. So these four elements are very difficult elements when you want to speak about water security. So you will need to manage these four big elements. Action Against Hunger is a humanitarian NGO. So here you've got some humanitarian figures. So it's figures that can be quite shocking in the MENA region. For example, 92% use less than 30 liters per person and per day. So it's quite difficult to imagine in this region or in Jordan using 30 liters. I don't know if you tried that. Us, we tried it during a World Water Day in Paris. We tried to use 30 liters per day. It's nearly impossible. So that's the first element. You can see also that there is an issue of distance to go to collect the water. So this is also a challenge for the population in this area. And then also a very concerning element is this 37% of children under 5 are undernourished. So you've got an area where you've got a humanitarian problem to be addressed. It's a zone where you've got only one drought season, okay? And it's quite large because it's between April and November. Of course, because there is very few water, you can have conflicts, local conflicts around the access to the resource. So ensuring water security is also ensuring peace in a place. So this is summarizing a little the situation there. You see this lady is collecting water from an unsafe resource. There's a challenge of quantity, there's a challenge of quality, there's a challenge of distance to the water point, there's a challenge of affordability. Because of course you've got a sort of little private sector that tries to sell water at high price, but at low quality. So this is also a challenge we face there. So, if we go to the method, don't go into the detail, but just keep in mind that this approach is an approach interfering with several methods. You've got classic piezometric methods, you've got hydrochemical research, and then you've got all the electromagnetic and electric methods in order to site the boreholes more precisely. So what we need to remember from this slide is that when you're in a complex environment, you need to have many methods working together. Another thing to remember is that when you are trying to work on water security, you start regionally. So you've got a regional approach, and then you move locally. So you are going to go at village level, and then you will go even further down just to the water point, level. So basically the approach is a funnel. You start very global, you finish very little, very concentrated. At regional level, like all hydrogeologists, we start with a global piezometric vision, and you see also that the chemical analysis is also giving you ideas about identifying the different type of water resources. So to identify water resource, you don't use only hydrology, but you use also hydrochemistries. In terms of electric methods, you start with very basic EM methods that are going to identify the main faults into the environment. And then based on that, you are going to develop TDEM, electromagnetic analysis, in order to spot where are the most resistive location where you could find water. So you see, we start with very global, very broad, very fast electrosounding analysis, and then we go deeper into electromagnetic analysis to find where is the water. At the village scale, so here is an electromagnetic profile. You see that we try to spot the water according to the resistivity of the underground. Okay? So this is the role of the TDEM. So I don't know if you used already a TDEM. It's a fascinating material. It has been created initially by the Russians to find water in Mars. So it's a very small, it's like a little mobile, and it's going to give you information up to more than 100 meters in depth. So it's a very powerful material and very portable material. Here we have the last step of the research, which is about water resource monitoring. So we've been, after we identified the water and we drilled boreholes, we implemented 10 probes into 10 boreholes, and we have been following these boreholes for several years, so not enough, of course. We've been following that for 4 years. And the idea is to use these probes for at least two main reasons. One reason is that by monitoring the water level in the boreholes, you are going to be able to manage the resource at best, okay, to know when you are going to draw, when you are going to stop drawing, etc. You can have an alert in the different boreholes, you know, at a certain level, because you know that you should not draw water more than a certain level. And then, of course, you can use also this type of probes to make advocacy and to demonstrate, for example, that from a year to another year, you've got a reduction of the piezometric level. I think that if we do that in Iraq, for example, in the north of Iraq, we can characterize very clearly the climate change in this region. It's okay. Something important to keep in mind here is, for the monitoring process, it's not Action Against Hunger who is doing the monitoring, it would be absurd. So we identified a partner in the area, we trained this partner, and then it's this partner who is managing the resource and who is developing the reports for advocacy. Okay, so the objective is not to do the things in opposition with a local partner, it's to empower the local partner in order for him to do the process. So, to conclude, the first thing to say is that when you are in a karstic context, it's extremely difficult to do hydrogeology. It's extremely difficult to ensure water security. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing is that we could improve the existing process by working more into transmissivity, permeability, so hydrogeological parameters. These parameters are quite difficult to work in a diaclast context. It's much easier when you've got a real permeability into the soil, but it would be an improvement. And also, I told you at the beginning that when you're in a karst, you're facing a lot of risk of pollution, so water quality. And so here we could increase the chemical and biochemical analysis in order to secure the water quality, to have a better water quality plants management. In terms of replicability, and it will be my last slide, if we look at the region here, your region, sorry, if you look at the region here, you have in blue here, you've got the karstic areas. So these very challenging areas, and you see that the connection with Iran, Iraq, all this is very pregnant, very important there. And here, on the other map, you've got the semi-arid context. And again, you see that the semi-arid context is present in a lot of areas of the region. So, if you want to work together with Action Against Hunger on these topics, you're very welcome to come and see me, and we can discuss how we can improve, our knowledge of the area together and how we can manage this type of projects together. We even got some funding to support you if you want to work on karstic areas in this type of environment. So I'm very open to meet you after this forum and discuss a little further if you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean, for presenting your experience working in using technologies and studies, different types of studies to basically examine water availability in karstic areas and how you can increase water availability and address water in conflict areas. Is there any question on the presentation?
I have a comment. If nobody wants to ask.
Yes.
Hello, thank you for your informative presentation. Fahad from Qatar, from Kahraman. My question: what about other, other geophysics, that seismic and the electromagnetic? Did you try to use it?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Other geophysics, like the seismic and the electromagnetic, did you use it? And also, what about the production well? I mean, in order to production well, did you make any pump test?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Yes,
Yes,
can
it's
you
on.
hear me? Okay. So, sorry, thank you very much. Thank you for your question. We didn't use seismic, but when you use electric sounding, ES, the first very broad approach, the seismic will give you more or less the same analysis. Seismic methods are used to have a very broad understanding of your context, and after you will need to go deeper. Regarding the electric sounding, yes, we use the electric sounding. It's a complement to the electromagnetic sounding, and we use it really at the end when we want really to sight the borehole. After having done the electromagnetic, we use an ABMN, so we are using a SYSCAL methodology, which is a 72 switch ABMN classical method. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? We have. All right. So we move ahead. Now our next presentation is Engineer Yasin. He comes from Turkey, Istanbul, and he participated in using technology innovations, especially trenchless technologies, to enhance and support water utility management and reduce leakage. So Yasin, we have about 15 minutes to present. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is Yasin Torun representing the TSITT, Turkish Society for Infrastructure and Trenches Technology. First of all, I would like to thank Aqua and engineer Haldun Kashman to provide this valuable opportunity for this presentation. I will try to keep my presentation as short as possible. So, the outline is introduction, leak detection, loss control, rehabilitation and recommendation. Water transmission and distribution systems are evaluated as a crucial infrastructure system which is used in delivering potable water to people. Water distribution systems are aging and deteriorating over time. Each year, hundreds of kilometers of pipes are rehabilitated around the world. The deterioration of water distribution systems becomes apparent through the impaired water quality, lowered hydraulic capacity, high leakage rate, and repetitive breaks. There are several available methods, acoustic, electromagnetic, vibration, to monitor and detect the leaks in water pipelines. However, we shall be aware that leaks are not reasons, they are results. Pressure management is a must for leak detection. Water pressure management is the use of pressure regulating valves and system monitoring points to achieve more consistent and lower water pressure levels across the water supply network. On the screen you can see the basic steps to control the loss. They are problem determination, measurement with flow meter, SCADA system application, creation of DMAs, district metering areas, pressure management, active leak detection, water reservoir isolation, renewal of old water meters, and rehabilitation of the pipelines. For water loss control, creating DMAs and installing necessary equipments. These are mainly pressure regulating valve, flow meter is a must to control the water loss. Electronic and hydraulic control units receive the necessary data and create open or closed commands for PRV based on flow-sensitive dynamic control methods. For the rehabilitation in a pipeline system, aging of the pipeline due to a variety of internal and external factors reduces its functionality as a water supply system and increases the risk of pipe failure. Failure of aging pipelines leads to greater social and economic damage. Thus, through proper rehabilitation and replacement, the pipe